It's between
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي وإلى مواعيد جود مولاك هرعي يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي وإلى مواعيد جود مولاك اهرعي. وإذا تأخر مطلب فلربما في ذلك التأخير كل المطمع. فاستانسي بالمنع وارعي حقه، إن الرضا وصف المنيب الألمع. وإذا بدا من ناطق الوجدان ما يدعوك للياس الذميم الأشنع، فاستيقظي من نومة الغفلات وليكن الرجاء لك مرتعا فيه ارتعي. إن العطاء إمداده متنوع، إن العطاء إمداده متنوع. يا حسنه ذاك العطاء المتنوع. وردوا على نهر الحياة وكلهم شربوا، وكم في الركب من متضلع. حاشا الكريم يردهم عطشا وقاد وردوا. وأصل الجود من ذا المنبع، أصل الجود من ذا المنبع. يا رب لي ظن جميل وافر، قدمته وامشي به يسعى معي. يا رب يا رب لي ظن جميل وافر، قدمته أمشي به يسعى معي. كل الذي يرجون فضلك، كل الذي يرجون فضلك أمطروا. حاشاك أن يبقى هشيما مربعي. كل الذي يرجون فضلك أمطروا. حاشاك أن يبقى هشيما مربعي. يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي. يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي. وإلى موائد جود مولاك اهرعي. يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي. وإلى موائد بوادي جود مولاك اهرعي وإذا تأخر مطلب فلربما في ذلك التأخير كل المطمع فاستانسي بالمنع وارعي حقه إن الرضا وصف المنيب الألمع وإذا بدا من ناطق الوجدان ما يدعوك للياس الذميم الأشنع.
And we are live. Alright guys, welcome back to the live stream. Matter of fact, the very first live stream on Twitch. This is why it took so long, as always. Boomer Bobby is in action. So now, inshallah, everything is set up and connected. People ask me for the link of the Twitch stream. Yeah, well, let me check it out myself. First and foremost, I want to see if everything is up and running. It seems like it. So that is good news. It was kind of hard to link because usually when you go through Streamlabs, you set it up for YouTube. And then afterwards, you just click stream on X, stream on Twitch, stream on whatnot. And it should sync up. This time, on the other hand, it was strange. Every time I would click on Twitch, it would basically delete all my settings. And this is why it now started with a completely new stream. And many viewers got kicked out from the old stream. So inshallah, they're going to find the new YouTube link as well. So I'm going to wait for them to join in too. I see that many already saw it. Okay, let me just find the Twitch link now. And post it in the chat if you want to watch over Twitch. I thought it's a good idea to diversify, because you never know what will happen on YouTube. Rumble was a good spot for sure for free speech, etc. But at the same time, we have to be completely transparent here. Rumble will never achieve what YouTube achieves, or even Twitch. So those two platforms are just way too far ahead for anything to come close, remotely close. You have Rumble, you have Kick, and it just doesn't work. Even though they invested a lot of money into certain streamers, they gave them contracts. It's a good idea, of course, but they can never compete with the big boys, with YouTube or with Twitch. So that is that. Let's try it out. I heard good things about Twitch, so I'm just going to try and see how it works. Let me find the link though. Yeah, it's a completely new interface here for Boomer Bobby. That will take some time, that's for sure. 1 second. I have an idea. When you are on Twitch and you look for Bobby's perspective, that is Bobby's, all written together, _ perspective. Then you should be able to find my stream. But nevertheless, let me just look it up.
And Retro
myself.
Twins has just been a really great journey for us to be on.
Okay, that is
We've
Twitch
learned a
now
lot
in the
about
background. 1 second, guys. Okay, here we go. That's me. Okay. Boris perspective. Twitch. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna post in the chat. Voila, that's it. Like this, you should be able to find me there as well. Okay. Fantastico. Alright, welcome everybody. Good to see you. Applause for everybody that is tuning in from around the world. Let me adjust my camera a little bit. It's a bit too zoomed in. I think that was better. Okay. Yes, that's good. Could you host Beck Lover? I have no idea who that is. No clue. Beck Lover. Never heard of him or her. No idea. Is there a delay in the YouTube stream compared to the Twitch stream? I hope not, but I wouldn't know. No idea. I'm not watching it live myself. And if there was, it must be a second or so. Absolutely no idea. We're just gonna start from here and see how it goes. There can be a big delay. I believe you'll be surprised about him and maybe make a video too. Okay, guys, as I always say, if you want to support the channel via super chats, that is the possibility over here. I don't know if Twitch has something integrated either, so we'll explore that as well. But super chats are the way to go, and like that I can see your questions. Moreover, please post videos that you want me to react to, and then we can do that as well. I have a few videos lined up. There's a very strange trend lately, at least I've seen it in my feed. White guys, European type of guys, converting to Hinduism, believe it or not. So very, very strange. I've seen it in the far-right movement as well. Many claim, of course, that the Indo-Europeans ultimately invented the early stages of what we now know as Hinduism, and therefore they claim that it is a white religion ultimately with white gods, and the whole caste system ultimately was created by white gods that put the white man on top. So it's quite amazing that white people find white supremacy even in Hinduism, believe it or not. So yeah, aside from those supremacists, just regular Joes, it seems, are converting to Hinduism. Quite interesting. The West is falling apart completely. So the most apostates of Christianity would end up certainly in atheism, some sort of atheism, agnosticism, New Ageism, aka the universe, those things. Then I would say it is followed by Islam, alhamdulillah for that. But yeah, you see many people flocking to Hinduism, Buddhism as well. So they definitely all leave Christianity, that is for sure. Which I have to say, I'd rather have the West stay in Christianity rather than Hinduism. But well, we'll see where that goes. I don't see a mass adoption either. I don't think it's a real threat to the European fabric. But it's quite fascinating that white guys would actually convert to Hinduism after all. So I have two videos like that. I haven't watched them yet, as always, but I have them in my playlist, and inshallah we're going to check it out today. I'm really curious to hear what they have to say. Way back when I was into New Ageism, I saw many people being very, very interested in Buddhism, Hinduism, etc., but never fully committing to Hinduism. But lately, it has been a trend. Stain X Falcon is asking what videos I'm looking for. It really doesn't matter at all. So whatever you guys want to watch, we can just check it out. That's why I like it here on the live streams. It's not necessarily as restricted as the main content, which is focused predominantly on Islamic reaction videos. On the live streams, I want to explore other venues as well, and so therefore it really doesn't matter. Or whatever, man. It can be bodybuilding, it can be red pill, black pill content. I really don't care. It can be literally anything, political, what have you. Especially all of what you can find on YouTube is good to go, because YouTube cannot shadow ban me any further, first and foremost, but they cannot flag me for something that I watch on YouTube itself. Yeah. And that is important. So for people that don't know, we are still, of course, shadow banned. On that note, guys, do me the favor, if you cannot support via super chats and whatnot, simply like the stream. That always helps a bit, I guess, I hope. So simply like the stream, leave a thumbs up, share the stream if you can. And then we go from there. Okay, what was his name again? Big Lover. Alright, let me just look that up. Big Lover. Not back like the backside, but B-E-K. Okay. Big Lover. Let's have a look. What is that? The Big Lover podcast. Ah, I've seen his face before. Quran holds the real truth. Why I became Muslim, back lover. I thought the guy always was Muslim, but apparently he's a revert as well. God, aliens, demonic realm. And a podcast about Andrew Tate as well, apparently. Okay. Let me set this up. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Uno momento. Back lover. Okay, here we go. So it's this guy over here. I've seen a few shorts. I remember that. But I didn't know that he's a revert to Islam. Why I became Muslim, back lover. He looks a bit Greek, to be honest. But I wouldn't know where he's from.
Surrounded by the enemy, and you know that I'm going to die, but I'm going to take as many of them with me as I can, right? Some people would do that in battle. I'm going to die anyway. I'm going to take as many of these.
That's against the rules?
Any of you believe in God or a creator? People that don't. I don't blame atheists in the world we live in. I don't knock them. I only knock them if they haven't truly looked or truly understood. Most people, like I said, take it as a tradition. This is what my father was, my mother was. This is what I was. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't like kneeling and taking communion or whatever it was, or getting circumcised or whatever. It didn't make sense to me, so they just assumed all religion made no sense. And again, I'm not saying that for me, I chose my path. I do not come from a religious family. My family actually, when I went towards Islam, was kind of like against me. Like, what are you doing? You're becoming kind of like, you're going to become like these people. That was the first reaction from my family.
When was that?
Okay, I was young, man. I started studying theology with no bullshit. Fourth grade is when it hit me in my heart a little bit.
Fourth grade?
Yeah, I had some friends. They were fasting Ramadan, so I decided to do it with them. And, even though Albanians are very secular, and our people hate to even be associated with religion, so I have to respect my people because I know a lot of them get angry about that because they're very secular people. And they are an example to the world of a nation that never fought itself over religion. Okay?
That's
predominantly true. Muslim, 70%, Catholic, Orthodox, and we have Jews also because we were the only country in Europe to save all of our Jews during the Holocaust.
Right.
A predominantly Muslim country, yet they've made a movie about anything you can think of when it comes to World War II. I mean, 20, 30 films a year at sometimes, right? Schindler's List, this one, that one, this one, Glorious.
Yeah, but I don't think he's a revert from what I hear so far, because he says he doesn't come from a religious family, but that doesn't mean anything. They weren't really practicing. But he is an Albanian, and therefore chances are pretty high that he came from a Muslim family nevertheless.
They've made millions of movies about World War II. 100%. Yet one of the most beautiful stories in the world has never been told about World War II. Why?
What happened there? Like, was there a
Albania?
big character like Oscar Schindler or something leading it? Or
well, the king of Albania took them in, and legend has it he even dealt with Albert Einstein. Now, we're having trouble proving this, but legend has it that the Albanians saved Albert Einstein's life. Exactly. He was documented being in Durs, visiting the king. Supposedly they're working on all that, but you couldn't keep documents during that time. Because first the Albanians were overrun by the fascist Italians under Mussolini, but they weren't hunting down the Jews in Albania. And then when the Germans took control after Mussolini fell, they wanted lists. And the Albanians did not allow a single Jew to die. Okay, a predominantly Muslim people.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same happened in Macedonia as well. Though.
Here we are, Time Magazine.
The king of Albania, King Zug.
All right, let's look at this. This is from Time.
Actually, we have stories like that all over the Balkan, man. So, okay, he's Albanian, therefore he will tell the Albanian side. And I don't doubt it, that's not what I'm saying. However, in Bulgaria, there was a king as well. I think it was King Boris at the time. And he even got a statue erected in Israel. So, yeah, there are always stories of certain political leaders on the Balkan that saved the Jews. So it doesn't really matter, Muslim or Christian on that note. But, yeah, it's kind of funny, man. On the Balkan, everybody has their very, very prideful stories of saving the Jews. And then they're very, very proud of ultimately winning certain wars, certain war crimes over others. The Balkan is a mess.
Time Magazine is called The Forgotten Stories of Muslims Who Saved Jewish People During the Holocaust. Let's go down, Alessi.
Why is this not a movie?
Even in the dark, well, let's find out. Even in the darkest times, there are heroes, though sometimes they may be the people we least expect. That's the message a global nonprofit group hopes to spread on Friday on Holocaust Remembrance Day, when it displays a small exhibit in a New York synagogue highlighting the little-known story of Muslims who risked their lives to rescue Jewish people from persecution during World War II. Though the two religious groups are often presented in opposition, this
Yeah, people are asking where I am from. I am from Northern Macedonia, if you will. I made it very clear on my channel that I don't necessarily agree with the identity politics of Northern Macedonia. For me, Northern Macedonia is essentially what Kosovo is to Albania. This is how I see Northern Macedonia in relation to Bulgaria. I simply see it as a Bulgarian independent state of sorts. It used to have his reasoning behind it because, yeah, certain powers that be, Serbs, Greeks at the time, they split apart Bulgaria with the help of Berlin and the French partially as well. And Macedonia kind of ended up in the limbo because it is a border place. So it bordered between Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia. And so everybody wanted to have a piece of it. 1 second, that is my son. One second, guys, I'm going to be right back. I just have to sort something out. Alright, excusez-moi. My son needed something. Yeah, anyways, where were we? Exactly. Macedonia got kind of split apart, rather Bulgaria got split apart, and then the land, the geographical land of Macedonia later on became its own country after the further falling apart of Yugoslavia. And yeah, I don't really agree with that identity politics down there, and I believe that it will further fall apart as well. This is why Balkanization is a terminology to begin with. I think that certain parts of Macedonia, such as Tetovo and Gostivar predominantly, highly likely will become their own little states or part of a greater Albania in the future. Because if you look into Tetovo, 80% at least are Albanian anyhow. You have Albanian universities over there, etc. Many of the new generation of Albanians living in Macedonia do not speak quote-unquote Macedonian anymore. So yeah, I definitely see a further division in that land. That being said, I personally disagree with the politics to begin with. I would reunite that piece of land with Bulgaria. But Skopje has other plans. Skopje doesn't want to collaborate with Sofia, it seems. Anyways, that is that. So, ethnically from the Balkans, I always say, and I leave it at that. Okay. Yeah, so I posted the Twitch handle. It's simply Bobby's Perspective. It's BOBBYS all together _ perspective. That's what it is for now. Bobby's Alexander the Great, yeah. You wouldn't know how much I don't care about Alexander the Great whatsoever. Literally, whatsoever. It's not my cup of tea at all. The thing is, I don't dwell in the past at all. Zero. This is why I was so amazed with reading the Quran itself, because it felt like God is speaking directly to you. This is what you have to do now. And I find it very, very refreshing. When it comes down to Hadith, I was never so amazed by it simply. It's interesting, it's fine, but it's history. It is what happened, etc. And that was never my field of interest, ultimately. And that's why when it comes down to certain national heroes, certain people that did certain things, if you look back to Alexander the Great, man, this is before Christianity, right? I think 300 years prior to Christ, something on those lines. And so now the people on the Balkan that are so identified with being Orthodox Christians pride themselves so much with Alexander the Great, which ultimately was a pagan, right? Why is that so? And either way, how does that define who you are right now? I never understood it, and I have no sympathy or interest for it whatsoever. No matter how great a man was in the past, it won't make you any greater whatsoever, even if you belong to the same ethnic group, or if you belong to the same religion even. It doesn't matter, because you are you, and you will have to aspire to greatness. It has nothing to do with what people did back in the day. So therefore you can be appreciative for your ancestors, so now you're here, it's amazing. But in terms of this pride with what the ancestors did, for me, that was never understandable. And moreover, if you look into Alexander the Great, he spread Hellenism. And this is simply not what Macedonia nowadays, Northern Macedonia, stands for. They're essentially Bulgarians, as I said many, many times. Slavs, at least culturally, we are Slavs, that's for sure. I personally believe that we are a mixture of Slavs and the indigenous people of the Balkans, such as Thracians, Illyrians, whatever. And that is that. So if you want to identify with Alexander the Great, you should learn Greek, I believe, and delve into Greek philosophy, potentially even paganism. And that is that. But yeah, I personally had never any interest in Alexander the Great. It was this big fight, especially online, between Northern Macedonians and Greeks. Who does he belong to? You even have some Albanians that will claim Alexander the Great and will declare him Albanian. He was Illyrian, if you really look into it. So the Balkan, again, is an absolute mess. It's definitely not my fight, not my struggle at all. Okay. Bobby, have you heard about Dr. Mike Israetel? He was very interesting videos on both his bodybuilding channel and his self-growth philosophy channel. So I've seen his bodybuilding channel. I didn't know that he has a self-growth channel. He has valuable information when it comes down to bodybuilding, that is for sure. And he is a jiu-jitsu guy as well. I think he's at purple belt now. So definitely a strong guy, that is for sure. I personally simply do not really resonate with bodybuilding content in general because I don't like what bodybuilding has become, to be totally honest. If I look into bodybuilding nowadays, it's like a science experiment. And that is just human nature. It's normal. When it started, steroids were still legal. And bodybuilders would go to the pharmacy, their doctors would prescribe something, what have you. So they had limited amounts of steroids, which doesn't mean that they didn't take tons of them. They surely did. But nevertheless, they still had limited amounts, and it was basic stuff. And the physiques reflected that as well. And I believe that they had much better quality food. They ate different as well. If you look at Pumping Iron, for example, you will see that Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's drinking milk. I assume it's raw milk. He's eating burgers, minced meat, and it's just totally raw in the middle, right? So they ate very whole foods. And then this whole rice and chicken trend came out. Why did it come about? Because first and foremost, rice and chicken is very cheap. But moreover, it is very easily digestible if you want to eat many, many meals per day. And that's what it boiled down to. Bodybuilders ultimately really went into those mega bulks. They went over 130, 140 kg. And this is why they had to eat so many calories, and they did it predominantly through rice and chicken then. But I see that the micronutrient density surely suffered. Anyways, rambling here. What I'm saying is what bodybuilding became with this super big bodybuilders, bloated bellies, no real aesthetic anymore. I totally lost interest in that. And moreover, you see a lot of bodybuilding deaths. So when I see like Mike Israel or whatever his name is, I saw a video of his where he was talking to this other Dr. Mike about him preparing for a bodybuilding contest and how he's on steroids and he wants to kill everybody and he has no emotions anymore, etc. I thought to myself, why would you do that to yourself? Because the guy is surely older than me, right? I would assume. Let me check. I would have him at 40, I think. I mean, with steroids, you never know because it makes you look way older, oftentimes, if you abuse it. But I would assume that he is 40. Let me see. BJJ Fanatics is the first page. No, but that's not him. Is it him? This is wild. I was born in Moscow. May 30th was my birthday. Because of Putin's ego, if my parents hadn't left Russia with my sister and I in 91, that could be us, etc., etc. So Dr. Mike Israel is from Russia, apparently. Probably a Russian Jew because of the surname. Yeah, I can't see anything. They left at 91. I don't know how old he is. If anybody knows, please let me know in the chat how old he is. I would have him for 40. I mean, at least. He looks even older here on those pictures. Anyhow, my point of the story is when I saw that he was preparing for a bodybuilding competition at that age, I just don't get it. I mean, do what makes you happy, but I really don't understand why you would push your body to such an extent. And yeah, have to take so many steroids for what? I just really don't get it. I understand when people in their 20s do it because they are not fully there yet. But if you're 40 to push your body through such an abuse, I really don't understand why anybody would do that. I really don't get it. Yeah, I can't find his age. Anyways, if anybody knows it in the chat, please let me know, guys. MOT says, honestly, bodybuilding isn't a very attractive sport, but going to the gym and building muscle is a good thing, don't you think? Or do you think ego can be the only dividing factor for that? Without sounding too philosophical or rather pseudo-philosophical, what do you mean when you say a good thing? What does that mean? So, what is lifting weights good for? Exactly. I personally went through hardcore bodybuilding and now I'm not bodybuilding at all anymore. So therefore, okay, what do you want out of life? If we're talking about longevity, for example, no, it's not good. For longevity, it is much better to have movement every day. That is amazing for longevity, for your body. Certain resistance can build somewhat of resilience, but you don't need to go overboard for that. So simple work. If you work in the garden, for example, if you chop some wood, certain regular normal activities, you go hunting, for example, what have you, you go for walks, then you like to play tennis, if you will, you like to play golf, you like to swim, certain things. So certain movements are definitely good for you, good for your body, healthful, but going to the gym in itself is definitely not healthy. There is nothing about it that would increase your health as such. Movement will. You don't want to be just docile, living on your couch. No, going out, moving, definitely a healthy thing. Going to the gym, there's nothing necessarily healthy about it. If you want to become stronger, yes, then the gym is good. If you're doing other sports, for example, I do jiu-jitsu, and for jiu-jitsu, strength training, complementary, is good because it makes you stronger, obviously, more resilient, less prone to injuries if you do it right, but you cannot go overboard there either. So that's basically what it's good for, if you will. But in itself, is it good for you? No, it's not. However, I've seen a few black pill content creators lately. They say that a man cannot fix his looks. You're just born with genetics and that's it. You're either pretty or you're not. For me, that's very ridiculous because it sounds so female-minded, that a man simply is doomed by his looks and it's all about looks. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, because I've seen very, maybe not very unattractive, but let's say I've seen very average guys pull a lot of women, make a lot of money, be very successful in life. Life is about doing. It's about being somebody that is moving forward and, yeah, is not obsessed about how pretty he is. So the black pill content for me is very, very hilariously ridiculous. But nevertheless, if you talk about improving your looks with the gym, that is possible, for sure. Not by you simply building muscle and then expect females loving you afterwards, but it definitely can improve your facial structure as well. So if you eat a caloric surplus, if you're bulking, you're eating high quality foods, you're training, resistance training, your face will change doing that, for sure. I've seen it with myself, and I've seen it with other people as well. You chew a lot of meat, your jaw becomes wider, your face stretches out a bit, your face muscles through the whole chewing and through the lifting, the contracting. You can get a bigger head, and that will make you more attractive as well. So seeing people positively change their whole facial structure through lifting weights. And I've seen people with the use of, not recommended here, but I'm just saying it, with the use of androgenic steroids, with hormones such as testosterone or even trenbolone, most definitely very, very, very positively influencing their facial development, for sure. Again, there's not a recommendation. I'm not saying that anybody should do that, but it's most definitely a possibility. I've seen guys become much more attractive like that. So, yeah, for women, if they're not attractive, then there's really nothing they can do about it. But guys, they can become much more attractive, most definitely, by going to the gym, eating healthy, getting good haircut, beard, etc. It will improve you, most certainly. So now, will a guy that is a 5 level up to a 10? No. But a guy that is a 5 can most definitely become a 7, for sure. That's definitely doable. Okay. Anyways. Is the black screen? I hope not. Let me double check. No. Are you guys getting a black screen? Yeah, I see other people here asking me Olympic weightlifting, etc. So all of those sports where you use more than your body weight, you will most certainly put a lot of tax on your body, and that can lead to tremendous injuries. That's just what it is. So if you feel good doing it, if you are really in tune with your body and you can calculate the risks, okay, so be it. But many people mess themselves up, myself included. 1 second. Okay, that was my son again. He just informed me that his pyjama is a bit wet. He dropped some water on it, and he will get changed now. His mommy is with him, but he always keeps me posted. He keeps me on track. Yeah, anyways, as I was saying, it is really like that. I learned it the hard way myself. You have to be very, very cautious. When it comes down to gyms, guys, it's not like a martial arts gym, for example. Martial arts gyms, you walk in, you get to know the coaches, you get to know your sparring partners, etc. You're being advised consistently. And very, very little people, I would say it is the absolute minority of gym goers, have some sort of personal trainer. And so therefore you go in there in your teens, in your early 20s, you lift like a maniac. And like that, many people injure themselves and damage their body for good. And I most definitely have done that to myself as well. I have plenty of injuries. My lower discs are fractured and whatnot. It's terrible. I have so many injuries, it's unbelievable. And therefore, I wouldn't recommend it necessarily to just lift as much as you can. There are many, many more ways of staying healthy than going to the gym. But nevertheless, I point out both sides, that it can have positive effects on your look, if you will. I mean, most certainly, the way that I look right now, my facial development wouldn't be this way if I wouldn't do sport and eat a certain way. That's just what it is. I've seen the positive change, right? So now you could debate, would your facial structure be the same if you would just eat highly nutritious food from the get-go? I would still say no, because I flexed my muscles when I would lift weight tremendously. If you're really lifting heavy weights, you will make all kinds of ugly faces, and that will train the muscles in your face too. So your head will become bigger, more structured, your skin will stretch out, as I said, and through that your optic changes. So I do appreciate my look that I achieved through lifting weights, believe it or not, as well. Most certainly. Yeah. But anyways, it's not good in terms of longevity and health. There are other sports that are much better for that, for sure. Simply playing basketball, for example, is much healthier for you than lifting weights. For sure. I know that many people don't want to hear it, but it's true. Sean, is your accent German? I would say so, I guess. I mean, I grew up in Germany, but at the same time, there is a hint, of course, of Balkan in there. And anything that I picked up whilst traveling and living in Australia, New Zealand, and even Thailand. So it's a mix of everything, but the basis most certainly is German. Brother Bobby, how do I get my beard like yours? Yeah, you don't, because it's your beard and not my beard. That's just how it is. Sounds harsh, but it's the truth. I've been asked that a billion times, and yeah, it's genetics, ultimately. I could have done all kinds of beard advertisements, beard oil advertisements, for example. The only thing that I ever use sometimes, on occasion, is coconut oil. When I see that the weather is super dry or something and my beard gets fizzy, then I put in a little bit of coconut oil, and that's it. That's all. I, back in the day, used a Moroccan oil. I forgot the name. That was quite nice, give it a nice shine. But I don't have to do that all the time. I can do that once a month. And other than that, just take a shower. And I only use soap. I don't use anything else. I don't use any beauty products. So just go take a cold shower with soap, and that's it. Same for my beard. This is just genetic. There's nothing I can advise you to do. However, I talked about this on one of my live streams as well. As a very, very young kid, I started drinking coffee and iced tea. Again, there's not a recommendation. Don't do it. Kids, don't start with caffeine early. Here's my beard. It's a bit fuzzy at the moment. And I trimmed it down here. And as you can see, I cut a little bit into it. So now we have this little gap going here. We have to wait until it fills up again. Yeah, that's better. Anyways, yeah, I started drinking caffeine very, very early on in life. And if you look into hair growth shampoos, they do have caffeine in them. And apparently this really stimulates the follicles and produces more hair growth. Apparently, allegedly. And yeah, that's what I did. So as a kid, but not planned. I simply enjoyed the taste of iced tea and coffee. I liked it a lot. And yeah, through that I got a pretty thick beard, I have to say. But I never did anything about it. Yeah. Anyways, there are certain techniques. So minoxidil, Regain, that is a hair growth serum that people use for their heads. I tried it a couple of times, but I always get so fed up of having an oily, shiny head, so I just let it be. I don't care, I simply shave my head and that's it. But I heard people applying it to their face and using a derma roller as well, where they poke tiny holes, and allegedly that makes the beard grow. Yeah. Bobby, can you ask ChatGPT about any remaining doubts you have about hadiths or similar issues? Okay, let me put it this way, guys. So first and foremost, yeah, I could ask ChatGPT about it. I mean, we can do it now if you want to. Why not? We can look into it. But Actually, yeah, let's do it now. Because if you look into secular scholars, right, totally removed from Islam, they all come to very, very similar conclusions. First and foremost, what is amazing, that the Quran is preserved. That's it. Nobody's doubting that. And you have to understand how great that truly is. Because if you look into any other religion, there is no claim from the secular community, from any outsider, that the scriptures are preserved. Be it the Bible, be it the Vedas, be it whatnot. There is no proof for that, right? But when it comes down to the Quran, non-Muslims will affirm, yes, the Quran is preserved. When it comes down to Hadith, on the other hand, yes, I talked with Sheikh Uthman as well about Hadith science, etc. Sure, there is a methodology in it, etc. But we cannot deny that there have been a lot of forgeries. That's just what it is, right? And therefore, no outside scholar will say the same thing about the Hadiths as they will say about the Quran. That is just what it is. And I said it many times before. No, I'm not a Hadith rejecter or anything on those lines. I simply do not see the Hadiths with the same authority that I see the Quran. And that's just what it is. So I would definitely consider myself Quran-centric, if you will. But nevertheless, I appreciate Hadith and I take them as lessons as well. There are a lot of great lessons in the Hadith, but I simply cannot see them with the exact same standard that I would approach the preservation of the Quran. That's that. But yeah, if you want, we can check out ChatGPT one moment and ask ChatGPT about it. Let's do it now. Hope they didn't change ChatGPT because lately it hasn't been quite the same. Let's have a look. That should be fun. Okay, here we go. 1 second. Like this. Yeah, like this. That should be good, right? Okay, let's try it out. So, let me know in the chat as well what I should ask it. So let's make it about Hadith now. And here you see it. It's a blank slate as well. So for anybody watching, I never manipulated ChatGPT. Bobby, can you talk to AI versions of people? I wouldn't know how. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the question objectively. I wrote that absolutely correctly. Objectively, would you say that the Quran is preserved? What am I doing here, man? I'm losing my eyesight. Okay, preserved. Okay, like this, right? Should be good. Okay, so ChatGPT says, from an objective standpoint, the preservation of the Quran is a significant aspect of Islamic belief and scholarship. According to traditional Islamic teachings, Muslims hold that the Quran has been preserved exactly as it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ over 1,400 years ago. This belief is supported by historical evidence of early manuscripts and the oral tradition of memorization, hafiz, practiced by many Muslims around the world. So we have the manuscript evidence, we have the oral transmission, compilation, scholarly consensus, modern analysis, etc. But let's ask, what do outside sources say about the Quran? Okay. Non-Islamic scholars and researchers from various disciplines have examined the preservation of the Quran. While there is general recognition of the Quran's unique history and widespread consistency, different perspectives arise based on the methodologies used to analyze historical texts. Here's an overview of what some outside sources and scholars say. Oh man, this is too long. Okay, make it shorter. Make it shorter. Oh, that's way too long. He's writing... What is this, man? No, no, no. Too long, too long, too long, too long. Way too long. Okay, I said make it shorter, but here you can see in the conclusion, outside sources, particularly from non-Islamic scholars, generally affirm that the Quran has been preserved to an exceptional degree compared to other ancient texts, while there is room for debate on the exact details of its early transmission, the overall textual yada yada yada. So that's what I meant, right? So even outside sources, of course, you will always have some people that deny it. I mean, you have people that say that Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, never existed, right? You will always have certain fringe understandings, but nevertheless, even mainstream scholars that have nothing to do with Islam will affirm that the Quran has been preserved. Anyways. Abdul Rahman says, there are some useless YouTubers who liked your content, and when you did the ChatGPT video, they started criticizing you. Yeah, I couldn't care less. Honestly, I said it many times before. It's totally normal. When you put yourself out there, you're creating content, people will love you, and then you just do something that, yeah, you've been doing all along, basically just doing you, and people all of a sudden will start hating you for it, right? So people will love you if they find something that they love, but then if it goes against their understanding, their biases, people start hating you. So I couldn't care less, generally. I really don't mind at all. Okay. Alright, so anyways, that's that about the Quran. Now let's ask about the Hadith. How about the Hadith? The preservation of Hadith, the sayings, actions, and approvals of Prophet Muhammad is a more complex issue than the Quran and is viewed differently by Islamic scholars and non-Muslim academics. Here's a brief overview of what outside sources say about the preservation of Hadith. And now, guys, before I continue, I know, many people will say, yeah, well, those kuffar, why would we care what they have to say? We know it's true, etc. I personally like to look at things objectively. When I looked at Islam, when I looked at the Quran, I was a kafir myself, right? And therefore I had to look at it as objective as I could and then come to my conclusion. And therefore I always keep the same spirit no matter what it is. So even within our own traditions, our own religion, I always stay skeptical. And therefore, yes, I look at all the sources, be it Muslim sources, Christian sources, atheist sources, doesn't matter. When you are looking for the truth, you will observe all the evidence, of course. And yeah, therefore, again, outside source when it comes down to Hadith, look very, very differently. So here we go. Historical compilation. Unlike the Quran, the Hadith were not compiled immediately after the Prophet's death. The major collections, such as those by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, were compiled about 200 years later. And so now, this is extremely important, of course, to understand. And again, please, with all due respect, guys, I am not a scholar. I'm not giving fatwas here. I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm simply saying this is how I see it, and this is why I remain critical of certain claims. Okay, please understand this. So when it comes down to Hadith being compiled 200 years later, this is of course problematic for me personally. Why? Because I am someone that critiques the New Testament, for example, as well. I critique certain writings about Jesus that came 150 years later. And this is something that Muslims will do as well. They will critique exactly those writings because they came 150 years after Christ, right? And they will say that the Gospels, for example, they're just stories about Jesus and they're not the Injil. That is totally fine. But when we look at certain hadiths, there are certain stories about the Prophet. And yeah, many of them came, as you can see here, 200 years later. So skepticism has to be still in check when it comes down to such realities. That's just how I see it. This gap raises concerns about the accuracy and authenticity of some narrations. Scholars like Joseph Schacht and Patricia Crone argue that many hadiths may have been formulated or evolved to support legal and theological positions that arose after the Prophet's time. Schacht's theory of common link suggests the chains of transmission were sometimes fabricated or backdated. So now you have Isnad, the chain of transmission, of course, that falls under Hadith sciences. Islamic scholars developed rigorous methods to verify Hadith authentically using Isnad, chains of narrators, to track the reliability of each transmission. Harold Motzky, a Western Islamic scholar, credits these methods with preserving a significant portion of Hadith. However, some critics point out that Isnad systems could still be manipulated. Many non-Muslim scholars see the Isnad system as impressive but fallible, noting that it was established only after the need to verify Hadith became evident. So now you have the classification of Hadith. Islamic scholars categorized Hadith into Sahih, Hasan, or Daif, based on the reliability of the narrators and the chain of transmission. Non-Muslim researchers like G.H.A. Eugene I don't know the guy, acknowledge the detailed classification system, but argue that human error, political motives, and this is my critique as well, or social influences could still lead to inaccuracies. Then you have number 4, use in Islamic law. The Hadith play a central role in Islamic jurisprudence. Some Western scholars believe that certain Hadith may have been retroactively attributed to the Prophet to support legal rulings that developed over time. Ignaz Goldziher, okay, a prominent Orientalist, suggested that some Hadith reflect early Islamic society's concerns rather than the Prophet's words. So now, number 5, academic consensus. Most non-Muslim scholars agree that while a significant portion of Hadith may be authentic, there is also a likelihood of later fabrications, especially considering the time gap between the Prophet's life and the Hadith compilations. Despite these concerns, the methodology developed by Islamic scholars, especially the science of Hadith criticism, is often regarded as a sophisticated system for preserving religious teachings. And yeah, basically there you have it. This is exactly my position ultimately, that as impressive as the Hadith sciences seem to be, there's of course a possibility that human error creeped in or even human agenda creeped in. And I believe that God gave the promise that the Quran will be preserved. And I do assume that Shaitan was doing overtime and that evil people wanted to corrupt Islam as they did with all other religions ultimately. And we believe that they initially were Islam. They corrupted them. You have infiltrators, professional spies even that go into religious movements, become really big clerics and whatnot just to manipulate and destroy the religions from within. And I would say that even Islam will be, of course, attacked, especially Islam will be attacked. And therefore, if you cannot attack the Quran, there is the potential, a possibility, of course, that certain hadiths could have been attacked, so to speak. This is my, I wouldn't say fear. I don't really care, to be totally honest. Because, yeah, I'm firm in my understanding and I'm firm in my belief in my faith. But that would be my critique. Bobby, these are obviously good points, but can you ask ChatGPT how it would counter these claims? I can do that, no worries. Let's do it now. Can you counter those critics? But to be fair, ChatGPT will of course be able. One second, are we still on? 1 second. Is the stream lagging or is it still on? It lags here on my end. Let me double check. Okay, still on. Fantastic. Yeah, so to be fair, ChatGPT can counter anything. So obviously with all the knowledge it has. Let's read it nevertheless. But let's keep in mind that it can really counter anything. So, okay. Critique of time of the gap argument. Critiques often argue that the time gap between the Prophet's death and the compilation of Hadith, around 200 years, raises doubts about their authenticity. However, it's important to understand that Hadith were transmitted orally long before they were written down in large compilations. During the Prophet's lifetime, his companions were encouraged to memorize and spread his sayings, and oral traditions in Arab society were highly developed and accurate, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, I know all of those talking points. Then reliability of Isnad. So it already attacked the reliability of Isnad, and now it's going to play the other perspective and tell you how reliable it is. You know. Let's continue with our criticism. Why not? Let's just go at it and see where it leads us. I mean, we're critical of all other religions as well. We might as well do it. Why not? So, what I found interesting, the earliest caliphates, how they handled it. Because in the first caliphates, as far as I know, there was no writing down of hadiths. Let me look this up. Okay, in the first caliphates, did they write down hadiths? During the time of the first caliphates, hadiths, the sayings, actions, and approvals of the Prophet Muhammad were generally not written down in a formal systemic way. Instead, they were primarily transmitted orally. See, now that's the thing, because now he took the side of us Muslims here, and he started defending hadith. Now, even in this simple question here, he keeps on defending. Which is now a bit annoying because now we don't have him objective anymore. Okay, so. See. So I wrote Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. What did they say about hadith? Man, keep it shorter. This is unbelievable. Keep it shorter. He's writing essays here. It's fine. Just keep it shorter. It's very unfortunate. On the app, you can talk to ChatGPT. That's so much easier. But on the computer itself, you can't. Hello. Shorter, not non-existent, bro. Okay. Didn't work at all. Let me try again. So yeah, even with a mic, you cannot talk into it. Okay, so Abu Bakr had a cautious approach, it says. Abu Bakr was very careful in narrating hadith, concerned about potential inaccuracies. He reportedly had a small personal collection, but destroyed it to avoid confusion with the Quran. Right, and this is really, really intriguing, man. This is actually quite mind-blowing, right? The first caliph that destroyed the hadith that he still had with him, even though they were written down apparently, and he didn't see them as accurate. So this is the first caliph, right? It's, yeah, I mean, this is quite intriguing evidence, I would say. Then Umar, he had limited writing. Umar discouraged widespread writing of hadith, fearing it could distract people from the Quran. He emphasized the need for strict verification of any transmitted hadith. So there you have it, right? So in the first caliphates, you have a Quran-centric approach, to say the very least. And of course, you have the traditions, etc., of the Prophet and the Sahaba themselves, but it wasn't hadith-centric, that is for sure. Uthman focused on Quran preservation as well. Uthman is mainly known for compiling the Quran, yeah, of course, the Uthmanic standard, into a single standardized version. He didn't take major actions regarding Hadith, but was cautious about their transmission as well. So Ali encouraged narration. Ali narrated Hadith himself and encouraged others to do so carefully. He valued the role of Hadith, but was mindful of accuracy and reliability in their transmission. So overall, the early caliphs prioritized the preservation of the Quran while being cautious and selective in Hadith transmission, emphasizing accuracy and verification. There you have it. Yeah, so for me, this is, again, quite telling, of course. And, I mean, it would be outrageous to claim that those hadiths that have been written down later on then, after the demise of those men, are just flawless. That would be, I would just assume, an overstatement. Okay. Anyways, what else can we ask it? So now we have that. What else interesting? But as you can see, so ChatGPT doesn't take my doubt away here. One more thing. How about Hadith fabrications and forgeries? Because that is something that I was very concerned with as well. So check this out. So now check this out. It's really quite telling again. Hadith fabrications and forgeries, known as Maudu Hadith, became a significant issue in the early centuries of Islam. Here's a brief overview of the issue and how it was addressed. So, the causes of fabrication: political rivalries. After the Prophet's death, various political factions, particularly during the Umayyad and Abbasid periods, fabricated hadith to legitimize their claims to power or to discredit their rivals. So they have two different Muslim empires essentially coming up with hadith to justify what they are doing. Sectarianism, conflicts between different Islamic sects, such as between Sunni and Shia groups, led to the creation of false hadith to support theological positions. Personal gain. Some individuals fabricated hadith to gain favor with rulers, increase their personal reputation, or promote specific social or religious agendas. So, I mean, what does this tell you, right? Without looking any further into it, religious agendas. And of course, you would infiltrate a religion if you infiltrate the hadith, the sayings of the Prophet. Most certainly. And here we see that there were such fabricated hadith. Then you had, of course, the scholarly response to this, and the response was: to counter fabrications, early Muslim scholars developed the science of hadith criticism. This rigorous methodology was designed to verify the authenticity of hadith based on two key components: isnad, again, chain of transmission, and matn, content of the hadith. Major hadith collections, leading hadith collectors like Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, and others established stringent criteria for determining authentic hadith. They rejected thousands of unreliable or fabricated hadith in their efforts to compile only those with strong chains of transmission. For instance, Imam Bukhari is said to have reviewed over 600,000 hadith, selecting only around 7,000 that met his rigorous standards. And this is exactly what I have an issue with yet again, because now we take Imam Bukhari and his rigorous standard, right? But Imam Bukhari never met the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and therefore we have to trust his standard now. So now again, like, Imam Bukhari is Imam Bukhari. I'm nobody here. I'm just doing a stream on YouTube. I'm not an Islamic scholar yet again. However, when I have a critique, when it comes down to Paul, when it comes down to certain church fathers, that came way later and didn't meet Jesus, I have to keep the same standard to people then such as Imam Bukhari. Because Imam Bukhari was not a direct companion of the Prophet, nor was he the Prophet himself, nor did he meet the Prophet. And therefore, he goes through texts that have been compiled by many, many people, and he is just a human as well, and now comes to the conclusion, okay, those 7,000, they are legit. He calls them Sahih. So, okay, fine, but you can understand my criticism when I say, well, maybe he removed certain hadith that were actually legit just by not knowing, and he put some things in that are not legit at all. Because how would he truly know? This based on assumption and his understanding. So identification of fabricated hadith, weak and fabricated hadith were identified and categorized. Scholars developed terms like mawdu, daif, and sahih, and mutawatir as well. I know it's not written down here, to indicate yada yada yada, etc., you name it. Yeah, that's the thing, you know, the more I looked into Islam, the more I looked into the Quran, etc., the more it made sense to me. And at some point I obviously accepted Islam, alhamdulillah. But when it comes down to hadith, I looked at them as objective as I can, and ultimately to this very day, I remain still somewhat critical. Yet again, I see a lot of value within hadiths. There are a lot of beautiful hadiths, but it's just something that I assume will remain critical about. I cannot just discard that they've been written down by various people over 200 years after the Prophet. So, yeah, that is my position, and I don't think it will change. But I'm open to it, of course. Anyways, that is that. Let me see something. 1 second. I saw that my chat box wasn't even on here. Okay, now it's on. Anyways, guys, if you want to support the stream, as always, super chats are the way to everybody that can support. I truly appreciate it. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. That is true. Okay, let me open this up. The purpose of life. Yeah, I've been hearing this before I reverted to Islam, but to this very day, I'm just not too motivated to do so, to be totally honest. It's very long. Muslim Lantern refuted all your points. Yeah, okay, and that's great. Yet again, as I said, I'm not making an argument here. I'm not making a claim, neither. I'm simply sharing my perspective, and I'm saying why I am critical of it. Do you understand? So, this is so weak anyways, when somebody says, yeah, well, that guy debunked it. Guys, I went through so many things in my life. Believe me, when I ditched veganism because it destroyed my health utterly, I saw it on my own body, how destroyed I was, digestion shambles, depressed, tooth decay and whatnot. Then I looked into all the major claims of veganism, carnivore camp, etc., etc. Anyways, I fixed my health again by eating meat, by eating organs, etc. And then you see somebody posting, yeah, well, but you've been debunked by that and that vegan, don't you see? And I'm thinking to myself, who gives a damn what that person thinks? I couldn't care less. There's always somebody debunking something. So if you look into Islam, for example, you will find people in my chats, in my comments, that will say, well, David Wood debunked you, or whatever, AP debunked you, etc., etc. I couldn't care less, because I'm not making affirmative claims as such. I'm simply sharing my perspective. I'm telling you how I see it, and that's that, right? And when it comes down to Islam, I'm particularly careful because, as I said now a billion times, I'm not a scholar, and I'm not trying to be, and I'm not making claims about Islam, again, because I have no qualification when it comes down to that. That's basically what it is. I'm simply telling you why I am skeptical of certain things. If you're not skeptical about it, that's good for you. Fine, then live like that. I personally am. So, Brother Bobby, are you a Quranist? I said already, no, I'm not. I appreciate the Hadith as well. I simply do not live my life Hadith-centric. I live my life Quran-centric. That's it. But I'm not a Quranist. I see many, many flaws with the Quran-only movement as well. It's yet again another sect as well, because people won't understand that even if you just take the Quran on its own, you will end up interpreting it, and that's what we see now. On YouTube, there's a whole new movement. Not that the Quran-only movement is new, but you see this Quran-alone movement developing now through the internet, and then you have certain authorities within their movements that interpret and translate the Quran in a certain way. And then you have other people that then become the Quran-only laymen that accept their authority and go by their interpretation again. So the truth is the truth, but humans will always have their interpretation. That's just what it is. And so therefore the Quran-only movement is very flawed when it comes down to that. Very, very similar to Protestantism, because Protestantism in Christianity proclaims that they simply go by sola scriptura. But what does it even mean, right? Do they take everything in the Bible? Of course they do not. And hence you can see that they have their own interpretation, yet again, of what means what. So therefore ultimately nobody goes just by the scripture, just by the book. So I personally am much more interested in lived tradition in Islam, for example. History as such, how it developed over time. Customs, and simply the practice of Islam, and first and foremost the Quran, Hadith to a lesser degree. It's just not something that I'm obsessed with, and I only do things that I'm really obsessed with. Yeah. If you accept Allah has promised to preserve his revelations, then by implication, does that not also mean Allah has promised to preserve the sayings of the Prophet? No, because he said that he will preserve his revelation. That's what it is. I mean, that is a critique of the Christians to Islam as well, because they say, hey, your Quran says that nobody can change Allah's words and that his revelation will be preserved, but he revealed to the Christians, he revealed to the Jews, so why hasn't it been preserved then? You understand? So if you look at it like that, then you have another problem. And that's why when we simply say the Quran itself is the last and final revelation of God and this will be preserved 100%, then that's what it is. And then Hadith do not fall under it. I mean, even if you look at it logically, right, we just looked at it, Hadith that come 200 years later, why would they then be preserved? I mean, matter of fact, even Bukhari went through 600,000, apparently, hadiths, before he then decimated them to a few thousand, right? So it's very, very different than revelation. That's just what it is. And I don't think that anybody will ever claim that hadith are revelation. Yeah. Guys, please stop spamming the chat. I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can. If you have a particular question that is burning on your tongue, simply send a super chat. You can send one for $1 and I can see it. But I don't answer spams. I don't like to have a spammed chat. How can you decide which hadiths are trustworthy and which aren't? I can't. Very, very simple. I cannot decide that. And I don't think anybody truly can. That's the whole point. That's why I'm simply critical and look at hadith through the lens of the Quran. That's all. But I cannot possibly claim, okay, this one is sahih. Otherwise, it would be called Sahih Bobby and not Sahih Bukhari. You know, so that's not my position whatsoever. I simply go by the Quran first and foremost, and by the traditions. I follow the 6 pillars of faith, right, and the 5 pillars of Islam. Inshallah, one day I will do Hajj, and that's that. But when it comes down to Hadith, as I said, I'm just very careful about it. Ask ChatGPT if the earth was created before the universe, as the Quran states. That's not what it states. Not all hadith are revelation, but there are some. Yeah, the Qudsi, right? Hadith. So, yeah, then we could assume that the revelations would be most certainly preserved. But when we're talking about all the hadith, if they're not a revelation, why would they be guaranteed preserved? Yeah. But then again, guys, for me, it's very, very simple. As I said many times, I have many discussions as well in my Telegram group, for example. I have many Salafis coming over and they're critiquing me. To make it very, very clear, I come from an Orthodox Christian background. In order for me to become a Muslim, this already took me alienating my whole family ultimately and going into the complete opposite direction of what all my forefathers have done. Right? So I made a decision and I went with it 100%. Right? So this is something that you have to understand. I already chose Team Islam. I became a Muslim after reading the Quran. This is what ultimately opened my heart to the truth. That's that. So therefore, I will be, of course, forever grateful for the Quran. That's that, right? I'm grateful for the traditions of Islam, as I said, the fasting, the praying, etc., the giving alms. And I, especially when I look into the history of Islam, now we saw it here as well with the early caliphs, we saw that there was not a hadith-centric approach, quite the opposite. It was about preserving the Quran, reciting the Quran, and this is what we have to this very day, right? So therefore, if you want to put me in a box, or you want to say that, oh, well, that's not the way that I see Islam, so therefore he's not Muslim enough, I couldn't care at all. Zero. Because I know what I did to come closer to Allah. As I said, I alienated my whole family. To this very day, I'm not talking with my father. So I really don't care about a specific niche opinion and any opinion whatsoever, to be totally honest. Because, yeah, I went the step, you know? I went the step. I am teaching my son how to pray, etc. So, yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Anyways. Yeah, I know Sheikh Al-Albani. I know that he's a Hadith scholar and he was Albanian. That's hence his name Albani. Yeah, exactly. All sects are haram anyways. Yeah, I have absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. The Quran teaches clearly that the Ummah will fall into sectarianism, but that we, as true believers, shouldn't fall into sectarianism. So therefore, thank you very much, dear sectarians. I'm not part of your team. Not at all. Not the Koranites, not the people of Hadith either. I'm just a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. Anyways. Salafi position is everything is revelation. Others only see the Quran as protected. Yeah, I mean, that's just not true. So the Hadith are not revelation. There might be a few, as we said, Qudsi Hadith, but it's not all revelation. That would be just a false statement. And I don't think they see it that way. And that's always the best question. Do you pray the way Hadiths describe? I have absolutely no idea how Hadiths describe the prayer. I learned it from a friend of mine. And this friend of mine learned it from his father, right? And his father learned it from his father, etc. So when it comes down to oral preservation of the Quran, everybody says that always, hey, if all the Qurans in the world would be burned, guess what? Tomorrow we would have another Quran right away because it has been memorized. And I'm sure that traditionally prayers have been transmitted. Duh. Matter of fact, I don't know one person that learned the prayer from the Hadith alone. So I learned it from a friend. I looked up some YouTube videos as well. But yeah, I haven't learned the prayer from Hadith, if that's what you're asking. Okay, anyways, enough of that subject. Something totally different. Come on, let's do something fun. As I said, in the beginning, I saw white guys converting to Hinduism or branches of Hinduism. Hinduism is very vast, so we cannot just say that it's all one, because it surely isn't. I mean, you have Agori and whatnot. But still, nevertheless, for the sake of easier understanding, I will simply say Hinduism. And I really want to hear what they have to say, because it's always interesting when certain people change their religion, but when you see Europeans or white people living across the globe converting to Hinduism, that is quite strange in it. Let's have a look. I have a few videos lined up here. Exactly. That's amazing. Hey. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, the video is titled 3 Things I Will Never Do by Shiva Kailash Shambho. Posted in Toronto, it says. So that's quite hilarious, to be totally honest. Because it would mean that, I don't know if you've seen it, but there are a lot of Indians moving to Canada, apparently. It changed the whole demographic. And now we see even the Canadians converting to Hinduism. That is something, let's put it that way. So the title of the video, as I said, is 3 Things I Will Never Do. Never say never, bro. I learned this the hard way, but okay. He's convinced. Let's have a look. What Shiva Kailash Shambho, so he gave himself a new name, would never do. In the background, we can already see a picture of Sadhguru, the biggest scammer there is. I mean, you can think of Hinduism what you will, but if you can't see through this gimmicky, super fake attitude of this guy, who, by the way, is against population of the planet by human beings. He wants to depopulate ultimately. He's against people creating children. He even said, and I paraphrase, he has 1 daughter, and he said that this 1 daughter is his biggest regret ultimately. But the regret that he loves the most, of course, but ultimately people shouldn't have any children at all. So he's part of the World Economic Forum agenda as well. This guy is a complete scam. And yeah, anyways, if you have a picture of him, yeah, I can definitely say you're on misguidance already. Let's have a look.
3 things which I will never do. Number 1, swim in a chlorinated pool. No, thank you. That's disgusting.
Okay, anyway. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna try to stay as respectful as possible, but yeah, I cannot help but laugh about it, to be totally honest, because Hinduism, in comparison to Islam, is a very ethnocentric religion, of course, and therefore you see this white Canadian guy that adopted complete Hindu wardrobe. That's just what it is, right? So yeah, it's very cringe. That's what my first thought is. But nevertheless, let's listen.
In a chlorinated pool. No, thank you. That's disgusting. Or actually swim in a public pool also, in an enclosed puddle where people are free to snot, sweat, pee, and spit. That's not for me.
Yeah, I'm sure the Ganges River is much cleaner than a chlorinated pool, right? Let's go to the holy river, guys.
But even if I had a private pool, no one swam in there for months, and it was entirely chlorinated, ooh, no thank you. I will choose not to go in there.
Okay.
Why? Because chlorine is so bad for you.
It's so funny, many of those Hindu gurus, like you see in the background, they speak with a lot of authority. Because ultimately, I mean, in their worldview, they are channeling their gods, if you will, and therefore they become super enlightened. And then you have to talk in a certain way, of course. You have to assume your authority, and you know it all, and the plebs watching you, the Untermenschen, they simply do not know, right? They have to listen to your cosmic wisdom, and therefore you can talk to them like the peasants that they are. And this guy here adapts that as well. Very, very well, I can see. Right, he has the same guru outfit and speaks to his viewers essentially like children. They have no idea. Listen to me. I know it all. It's always the same, man.
It's so bad for your spiritual health. Maybe you're not going to die today, tomorrow, or in 15, 20, 25, 30, 50 years. It doesn't matter to me. I know the effects of my own mind when just the fact that I'm washing my hands with chlorinated water and then I meditate, I can see and feel the effects. This is not good. Unfortunately,
This is not good. He talks like Dr. Evil. 1 million. Anyways, what is not good about it? So chlorine ultimately is a disinfectant. And therefore, yeah, if you spend a lot of time in chlorinated water, it can be a bit harsh for your skin, so you should moisturize after that. And I wouldn't recommend swimming every day in chlorine, sure. But to say you will never do it again, he said it himself, it won't kill you, obviously. It can't kill you, you're quite resilient, and it's not that toxic anyways. Children are allowed to swim in chlorinated water, it doesn't do really anything. And I see it here in the chat, public pools are disgusting. Yeah, I don't go to public pools either, because you have a bunch of kids peeing there, and you have a lot of disgusting people anyways. But yeah, you can have a private pool, and it's quite nice. It's refreshing with your lady. Anyhow, he says that you're not going to die of it, but spiritually you're going to suffer of it. How is that even a possibility? That is why I see so many flaws with Hinduism and Buddhism, because they always believe that they have to change their human body, they have to change their biology in a certain way. For example, they cannot eat meat, right? They have to fast in a certain way for pretty much all the time, not periodically, to reach their mindset, to reach their enlightenment, to reach nirvana and whatnot. How will chlorine affect you spiritually? If you believe that you are spirit, nothing in this world can affect you spiritually. What does the chlorine do? Does it lower your consciousness? Unbelievable.
the city which I live, here in Mississauga, or it's the city right next to Toronto, in the Greater Toronto area, the water is heavily chlorinated.
Okay, we have commercials here. Unfortunately, many of those commercials are fake, and you can see it right away.
So Mississauga chlorinates their water so heavily. This needs to stop. Why do they do this? I don't know. Maybe they like the smell of chlorine. I don't. It's very unpleasant. Maybe they want to kill all the bacteria. Okay, that's wise, but this is not the way to do it. And
Okay, so he says himself that it would be actually wise to kill off certain pathogens, certain bacteria. But well, this is not the way to do it. So he's not going to give you any type of solution now. He's not going to tell you how to do it. Well, this is certainly not the way to do it. Okay, tell me, how is it done? How do you do it in water production, in water cleansing? How do you do it?
and maybe they can't feel the effects that chlorine has on their system or their skin or their mind or their body, most likely, but the effects are there, the effects are true, and I'm going to share them with you.
Okay, shall we?
I'm rhyming all over the place in this video.
Where are the effects?
So as I'm washing my hands, I can smell the taste. I can smell the chlorine. And I wash my hands, and then I close my eyes and meditate, and I can feel my pineal gland needs detoxing. Why? Well, because of these chemicals that are entering in my body. I've also
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's always the theory the pineal gland gets closed up, not by chlorine, actually by fluoride, but now he takes it a step further, and now he claims it must be chlorine as well. If you look into the chemical structure of chlorine, I would really like to see how it would then close your pineal gland. The whole fluoride subject was because of alleged calcification of your pineal gland, but please explain to me what chlorine will do to your pineal gland.
I've seen a video, I don't know if it's accurate or true, but a woman took 2 glasses, filled them up both with the identical tap water, placed them down, measured the chlorine level in one, and you could clearly see the color change. Then she took her hand, placed it inside the other water, held it there for a few seconds, took it out, and then put the drops. There was no chlorine in the water. All the chlorine was absorbed because the chlorine was absorbed into her hand.
Of course. Yeah, 100%. So this is why you see in public pools, there's a bunch of people, they all jump into the pool, and then there's no chlorine left at all. It all got absorbed in the matter of minutes.
So I will never do this in a pool. Okay? It's bad enough that I'm washing my hands with chlorinated water. I'm not showering with it, thankfully, because I have a filter on my shower. But jumping in a chlorinated pool, oof, no thank you. I don't.
Okay, you have a filter on your shower. If you're so against it, can't you just install a filter on your tap if you have it in your shower?
Want to absorb that much chlorine and then having no insight into the nature of reality for the next 1 or 2 days or 3 days or longer. Can't do it. I will never swim.
Yeah, exactly. So here you hear it first, guys. If you wash your hands with chlorinated water, you have no insight into reality at all. It's just simply gone. You have no insight into reality. I think the guy should actually take a shower, and probably that would bring him back to reality. Preferably a bit colder shower then.
In a chlorinated pool.
Okay.
This goes also for the fact that public pools that are maybe salted or maybe naturally, I don't know how they keep other pools clean, but that's also a little bit ridiculous to me, because the first instinct that you have for going into the water, a body of water, is to pee. And everybody does it. Unless you shower and you get that out of your system.
Okay, you're disgusting, man. I don't know if it is the Hinduism after all, but it's not my first instinct to pee when I go into water. What kind of bunk is that? Please in the chat, let me know. Is this your first instinct if you go into water? Your first instinct is to simply just pee into that water. That's the first thing you feel. I've never heard that before. Not saying that there are not people that are peeing into public pools. There most certainly are, and public pools are disgusting, for sure, for many other reasons as well. But is that your first instinct? You just feel like peeing? You cannot control yourself?
Ahead of time? Hard to miss, or hard to overcome that. Except if you are swimming in cold water, which cold water negates the need to relieve yourself in this way. So maybe potentially, and I have done that swam in public areas with cold water, particularly in the Surya Kund, which is a very sacred space that Sadhguru has created. Search it up,
okay.
Google it.
No, I'm not going to search it, nor am I
Number
going to
2.
Google it, but that's the whole point. So this guy is just a follower of Sadhguru, which is, as I said, the biggest scam artist and Depop agent. So yeah, look into Sadhguru and see who's funding him.
What I will never do again, my friends, is eat meat. I hope this is true. I hope this is accurate, because I've gone off of this path before, but now I have fixed it. I believe that I have come to the conclusion of me eating suffering animals. Maybe in the future I'll think, oh, there's advantages of eating corpses and mutilated dead animal body parts that have suffered miserably and died needlessly and were enslaved and tortured and decapitated for our taste pleasure. Maybe it's a little bit of a good thing. Maybe I need some vitamins from them. Yeah, vitamins. Yeah.
Okay, so again, a strawman and the arrogance. I would really like to slap him just to bring him back to reality. No, this is not me making any threats, guys. Don't get me wrong, please. Just wake up, bro. What are you talking about? The guy's so far gone and completely absorbed in his arrogance. He knows the mutilated body parts, etc. It's just vegan talking points. It's a straw man. As humans, we're not eating meat because of taste pleasure alone. This is actually a fabricated concept in many ways, if you will, after the Industrial Revolution, because you created certain foods for big markets that have certain tastes, and therefore people started eating those foods just for taste pleasure. That is correct. Nowadays, you have scientists, ultimately, they are employed by big companies to create certain drug-like foods that will trigger certain responses and will hijack your taste buds, so you will get addicted to those foods. Absolutely. So this would be the taste pleasure. However, if we're talking about natural foods, naturally occurring foods, those foods are tasty to us because they are our food. We recognize them as food. That's how it works, right? So if you look at a cow, for example, it's very, very simple. A cow, when it sees grass, it will be attracted towards it, and then it will start nibbling at it, and then it will recognize, this is food. This tastes great. This tastes phenomenal. I want more. So much so that they will continue to pretty much eat the whole grass around them, right? They are fantastic at cleaning up huge areas of grass. Anyways, the point of the story is that it tastes good. The cow experiences taste pleasure because grass is its species-specific diet. That means the grass was literally made for the cow. If you are a Darwinist, you could say it evolved that way. If you're a believer, you would of course say God created it that way. It doesn't really matter. The point of the story is the grass is the cow's food, and therefore the cow recognizes it. It's tasty. And the same applies, of course, to the human being. We are omnivorous, highly carnivorous, however, but omnivorous nevertheless. And therefore, in a natural setting and natural environment, we as people, we would be attracted towards meat, raw meat as well. Yes, believe it or not, many people are so removed from that nowadays. But it's true, we would appreciate the taste. Sushi, for example, many people can relate to, or French people can relate to steak tartare. Italians can relate to carpaccio. And all of those are raw meat dishes, raw animal foods, and people enjoy them. So if you look, for example, at sushi, just as an example, it's a very basic one, you don't need much seasoning, right? People like to eat it with a bit of soy sauce or a bit of wasabi, but it's more to clean your palate. It's not so much for the taste in itself. You can generally enjoy a sashimi, for example, a salmon sashimi, just like that, with nothing on it, and just let it melt in your mouth, and it tastes fantastic, right? But this is just a raw piece of fish. That's it. It's nothing else. So if you compare that to, let's say, a Thai coconut curry, which needs 1,000 ingredients, then you would see, okay, this thing has been manufactured in order to evoke a certain response in our mouths, but it's not the real deal, if you will, because the raw salmon is simply nutritious, and you feel it, and it tastes great. The same for steak tartare. It doesn't necessarily need seasoning. There are options. Some people like to add some pickles and whatnot. I personally just like raw meat the way that it is as well. It's quite nice. So the whole point of the story is that we're not decapitating and making the animals suffer just for our taste, pleasure. No, we're eating it because it is nutritious and it is our species-specific diet first and foremost. That's the most important thing that we have to realize, of course, as human beings. What is our diet? If you look at zoos, for example, right, you see animals in cages, but nevertheless, they get their species-specific diet. They're not feeding the zebra cornflakes. They're not feeding the zebra meat. They let them grass, they give them hay, right? They emulate a natural diet for those beings. And that's just what it is. So therefore, this whole fear even of killing animals just goes completely against our human instinct, because that's what we've been doing forever, based upon our biology. So nothing that we did based upon our biology can be seen as wrong, because our biology determines what our food source will be, ultimately. Right, as I already said now a billion times. And therefore, for you to go against that due to some teaching of some man there behind you, That simply means that you go against God, the way that he created the world. And you take his word there in the background over God's word. And God ordained for us to eat meat, of course. Why? Because we are biological omnivores. If you look into the pH levels of our gut, it is fairly similar to cats and dogs. Therefore, highly carnivorous, omnivorous beings. Most definitely not herbivores, because if you look into our intestines yet again, you will see that we don't have those hind guts like cows. We don't have those super elongated intestines. No, we are omnivorous. And anybody will tell you that. Any normie mainstream scientist will confirm that as well. So now they will always give this quote-unquote argument, yeah, well, just because we can, we don't have to. But I would make the counter-argument, yes, we absolutely do have to. So if you look at Hinduism, for example, you do see heavy dairy-based vegetarians. And therefore, if you look at, for example, the raw milk that they're drinking, they call them ahimsa cows. So cows that are not being tortured, they're not being taken away from their calves. They simply give an excess milk for the Hindus. So they call them ahimsa cows, non-violence, etc. So the point is that they're drinking a lot of raw milk, and raw milk is pretty much a very complete food. You don't have iron in there, you wouldn't have carnitine, carnosine. But other than that, it has a very dense nutritional profile, and they're eating a lot of butter, a lot of ghee, and some of them eat eggs as well. So like that, you can maintain somewhat healthfully, because, yeah, you again emulate a somewhat naturalistic diet. You still have the animal fats, the proteins, the vitamins, etc., you name it. Of course, you would be much better off if you would eat the whole animal, which we obviously used to do and still do. I mean, even total normies nowadays, they eat burgers, they eat sausages, and in those meats, you do have pretty much the whole animal as well. Yeah, therefore, they ingest them, and like that, you maintain health, right? The point of the story is, those people are completely removed from reality. They are in their religion, which was built upon a caste system, which declared vegetarianism for the peasantry, and the elites were still eating meat. And why is that so, right? It's just completely anti-human, ultimately. That's really what it boils down to. Their whole religion is completely against humanity. And that's why they hate themselves so much.
Or a little protein from them. I don't think so. I hope not. I just want to leave the animals alone, because each and every single living being wants to live and shouldn't feel pain or fear knowing that they're going to become food for you simply because you're ignorant and you don't.
Okay, but he makes an absolutist statement here. He says they shouldn't feel that. Why shouldn't they feel that? Why is that objectively wrong? So again, if you observe what is happening on this planet, right, they will always say, oh, it's an appeal to nature fallacy. But you observe what is happening here on this planet. Even our mass industries of animal food production cannot compare to one day in nature. One whale will kill millions and trillions ultimately in his lifetime of fish, right? Every animal, especially carnivores, but even herbivorous animals, they consume certain small insects, bacteria here and there. And they're opportunistic as well. I've seen cows eat little chicks, baby chickens, etc. So even herbivores will eat some animals throughout their lifetime. They don't really care. But nevertheless, the point of the story is that within this ecosystem, you will see that life has been created in a certain way where everything feeds on each other all the time, right? Without the shadow of a doubt. And therefore, for you to say they shouldn't feel the way that they feel is an absolute statement, and the question becomes, what is it based upon? Because the reality speaks against you. The reality of nature speaks against you. This planet has been created in a certain way where everything feeds on each other, and therefore this fear that is experienced by the victim, if you want to use your own words here, is just what it is, right? And especially Hinduism and Buddhism teaches the isness of things, returning to the moment, the now. Why not simply accept it for what it is? Right? This is how this life functions. It's very, very simple. And he says that nobody should suffer. But why? Why should nobody suffer? The suffering of one animal brings nutrition to the other animal, right? That's how it works. That's the life cycle. That's how it has been created. And so even if you would stop eating meat, that would continue anyways. So why would you stop? Because if it is absolutely wrong to eat other animals, then we would have to interfere with nature. And you have certain psychotic vegans that actually subscribe to this idea. And I would say that they make more sense, ultimately. There are certain psychotic vegans that really want to alter the DNA of carnivores worldwide so no animal eats other animals anymore. They want to just maintain life forever and then they just die of old age, what have you. But anyways, so that is the perverted extension of that idea. But this guy, on the other hand, what is your end goal? You say that it is wrong, but in nature it will continue. So would you go against carnivores in nature as well? That would be my next question.
Don't know what to do. Oh, what about the predators in nature? Yeah, predators in nature are not the kindest creatures also, but what are you going to go? Change nature? No. You're an upright, spine erect human being.
Okay, very well. Actually, this is very important. So he just said it himself. He said, yeah, well, predators in nature, they're not the kindest. Okay? And what you gonna do? Change nature? So he appeals to nature as well. I don't like this. It's an appeal to nature fallacy because I do believe firmly that we can learn a lot of nature. I'm not a naturalist, but nevertheless, we can most definitely learn a lot from nature and observe what is natural to a species and adhere to that as well. But nevertheless, he says, change nature? No, exactly. So what if I were to tell you that human nature is carnivorous? What then, right? And what if I would tell you that you, my friend, are a predator? Believe it or not. So, I mean, your eyes are the first giveaway, right? We are not herbivores that have the eyes on the side to look out for prey and to be consistently on the run. No, we have our eyes up front. This is a predator. That's how we look like. And matter of fact, we are the apex predator, of course. Vegans, retards, will say, well, then just go out in nature and fight a lion if you're so strong, if you're such a predator. No, we are predators because of our brains, of course, and we can use weaponry. Matter of fact, there are certain exhaustion methods as well. You will be quite amazed when you see certain African tribes actually steal food from tigers and lions and whatnot. It's quite amazing. But nevertheless, we are able to create weapons. This is our defense system. And therefore, we can eat everything on this planet. It's quite amazing. Right? And that's just how it goes. So therefore, why would you fight against that nature? So you want to go against your own nature. The carnivorous, predatory nature of human beings. Why? Well, it doesn't make any sense. He said something else there. Wait a second. Let me just rewind real quick.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is...
I need to install an ad block, at least for the streams.
Vitamins from them, yeah, vitamins, yeah. Or a protein from them.
Actually, you do.
I don't think so. I hope not.
Yeah, he doesn't think so, but hey, you do need it. I mean, even if you look at the whole vegan agenda of B12, you need at least vitamin B12, but you need D3 as well. You need carnosine, carnitine. There are many things that you need. So therefore, he's smirking it off. I guess not. Yeah, you do. You do.
I just want to leave the animals alone because each and every single living being wants to live and shouldn't feel pain or...
Exactly, that was it. So every single being wants to live. Yes, absolutely. Plants want to live too. So now, especially coming from someone that is oh so spiritual, oh so enlightened with his turban on his head, he would have to understand then that everything has a certain life force within it, right? And therefore, why would you then have this arbitrary standard where you say just certain life forms, they want to live and we shouldn't eat them? Why? Because they express it in a certain way? So animals, for example, when you kill them, they might scream or they might fight you, right? But that is simply their defense mechanism. And if you look at plants, they have defense mechanisms as well. Certain poisons, certain anti-nutrients. And this is why many people that are over-ingesting plants, they will get digestive upset. Because those plants still have those lectins and oxalates and whatnot, which are defense mechanisms. So you have to understand that within nature, certain plants will be eaten by certain bugs, for example. And then they will start producing defense mechanisms. So when the bugs try to eat those plants, the bugs actually will die, right? So the human being won't die because those amounts are too minuscule for that. But they can definitely injure your gut lining. They can lead to all kinds of depressive disorders and health disorders if you over-ingest plants. That's factual. That's science. Look it up. So the point of the story then is the plant itself is defending itself with defense chemicals. This is their mechanism. And the animal is defending itself with teeth and with claws. So both want to live, right? Yeah. So what do we learn from that? Everything wants to live. And therefore you cannot take that as a standard to then declare which one would be more valuable, right? Where do you draw the line? For me, it is very simple, right? I believe in God, and therefore I draw the line as humans, by humans, and whatever God has decreed for us, of course. So God has decreed for us to eat meat, and alhamdulillah for that, of course, because it is our species-specific diet, and that's what we eat, right? And for that, of course, an animal has to suffer to an extent. So with halal slaughter methods, we can do it as just, as merciful as possible. But nevertheless, of course, there will be suffering within that animal. That's just what it is. There will be suffering. There will be a sacrifice, of course. But how do you know that those plants are not suffering in one way or the other? Just because we cannot perceive it with our limited senses. Maybe it's even more cruel. Much more gruesome. Who knows? You just don't see it yet. Maybe he shouldn't have washed his hands with chlorinated water. He would have seen it.
Or fear no animals go through. It's much more that I have more compassion than any species of animal here on planet Earth. I think you can make the right, wise, and compassionate choice. A little bit of a good thing. Maybe I need some vitamins from them. Yeah, vitamins. Yeah. Or maybe I need a little protein from them.
Yeah, matter of fact, again, like you have all the bioavailable vitamins and protein in meat. You don't have it in plants. It's a fact.
I don't think so. I hope not. I just want to leave the animals alone because each and every single living being wants to live and shouldn't feel pain or fear knowing that they're going to become food.
It will always
for
continue.
you,
That's the whole
simply
point.
because you're ignorant and you don't know what to do. Oh, what about the predators in nature? Yeah, predators in nature are not the kindest creatures also, but what are you going to go change nature? No. You're an upright, spine erect human being with a brain the size of a melon, far more intelligent than
It's definitely not the size of a melon.
any species of animal here on planet Earth. I think you can make the right, wise, and compassionate choice. Can't you? Don't you? I have a little bit more faith than you, for you, that you can stop eating dead animal body parts. But hey, maybe I'm a little bit...
He's so bitchy. He's really like a woman. Can't you? Won't you? Don't you? Uh-huh. What's wrong with you, man? So the point of the story is, why? You have an erect spine, okay? You have a big brain. He said like a melon, which is not true, but okay, you have a big brain. True. So those attributes make us the apex predator on this planet. Exactly those attributes. That we have the erect spine, that we can walk on 2 feet, 2 legs, that we have a superior brain to every other species. So why then shouldn't we eat meat? It's completely backward, right? So be as smart as possible, but eat as a dumb cow. Okay.
But overly ambitious. So this is something that I will never do, and it's much more than me saying the the suffering and pain that these animals go through. It's much more that I have more compassion than you do, maybe than 10 of you combined.
Wow, I just built the most...
This is amazing, man. So yeah, there's another ad break. He's talking to his viewers, right? And he's telling them that he is so enlightened and so evolved, and he has simply more compassion than 10 of you combined. So how many subscribers does he have? So he has 4,390 poor schmucks watching him. This video generated 784 clicks. Yeah, and ultimately he has more compassion than 10 of his viewers combined. Obviously, because he leveled up, guys. Obviously. He learned from Sadhguru, and he is so far ahead. And you dirty flesh eaters are simply not on his level. How could you be? Peasants, slaves.
And it's also much more than the physical consequences that it has on me. That's just so bad. And the spiritual consequences that it has on me, that if you think you're going to be spiritually wise and you're eating animal corpses, forget about it. Forget
about it. Okay, so in Hinduism, we have this sect, niche, call it what you will, called the Aghoris. And the Aghoris eat humans. Yes, they are allegedly one of the most enlightened ones within all of Hinduism. And they are eating dead corpses. They're drinking urine. They are eating feces. It's disgusting, right? But nevertheless, they are super enlightened, allegedly. Whatever the arbitrary standard there is. However, he says that if he eats a animal corpse, he cannot be enlightened. And matter of fact, I used to hold the same belief, believe it or not. Now it's kind of funny looking at this. When I was a vegan and I was super spiritual, quote unquote, I was looking into Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. I had the same perspective, and I thought that you cannot simply eat dead animals and be enlightened. But why? There was never an argument at all, whatsoever. Why can't you be enlightened, again, quote unquote, when you're eating your species-specific diet? Why can't you? What will that change? Why would you have to eat man-made plants? Because mind you, all of your vegetarian, vegan food that you eat nowadays, all of those plants have been cultivated. All of those plants are manufactured, bred, changed. None of it would have been found anywhere in nature. I mean, even during the time of the Buddha and whatnot, it was a very, very different plant kingdom they had access to. That's just factual, right? So now you're eating all of those modern grains and modern porridges and whatnot, and you think you have to eat it in order to become enlightened. Why? And moreover, because you cannot make the claim that vegetarians cannot get enlightened, right? Because you have a bunch of vegetarians within Hinduism that are allegedly, again, enlightened. And those guys eat eggs, they eat milk, right? They eat butter. So they're eating the secretions of another animal, to use your vegan terminology here, and they're becoming enlightened. So why can you eat the secretions, but you cannot eat the flesh? What would that change? Right? They have no argument for that. They simply tell you this is how it is, because some guru told them, right? Why can't you eat meat and be enlightened? Tell me about it.
You might as well just quit today and become a regular Joe. Drink beer, eat animals, watch TV, and sleep. Okay? Because not much higher things are going to come out of that. Why did I stop eating meat? Is because
it's so extremely arrogant, man. It's unbelievable. But he will fall ultimately because it's not sustainable. Of course, they all start eating meat again. I met so many people into Hinduism, into Buddhism, New Ageism, etc. They all come back to eating meat more than before. Believe me that, right? But anyways, so what's the whole point? He claims again. Wait a second. Let me just rewind this here.
Because not much higher things are going to come out of that. Why did I stop eating?
He says not much higher things will come out of that. You will become a normie. You might as well become a normie. Just drink beer and sit on the couch. It's so funny, right? All of those super spiritual and enlightened people, they're looking down on the normie that is sitting on the couch. Oh, look at him. Oh, just maybe he's more enlightened than you. How would you even justify that? How would you quantify it? How would you know? Maybe the guy is super enlightened, just sitting on his couch. Right? Do you have to be in a certain spot in order to be enlightened? Right? But anyways, why? If you're eating meat, those guys always associate that with eating burgers, pigging out in front of the TV, and drinking beers. Why not simply eating whole foods, whole animal flesh, organs, etc., and not drinking alcohol? Why isn't that a possibility? And why would that be then inferior? Can you give us any response to this? Of course not.
Eating meat is because of that.
What?
Many years
What is that? Snow? Because of snow?
ago, or not many years ago, it feels like many years ago, but recently, and some time ago, maybe a year ago, or approximately close to 2 years ago, I had a very distinct feeling and intuition that Shiva, this god, the first yogi, if he existed, and if his presence was known to me, he would not want me to eat this. And I felt very clearly, okay, if I'm going to pursue this, meaning Kailash, and if I'm going to really investigate what this Adiyogi is and the power that he holds, I cannot eat this. I cannot eat dead, suffering, mutilated animal corpses. Can't do it. And all the byproducts that also cause suffering. It's not just the fact that they're suffering. Maybe milk is something good for you. It's not good for you. I know this for a fact because I can't eat it. Not because I'm sort of intolerant to milk or something. No, spiritually, it won't be good. That's why I will never put it in my body unless I totally deviate from this path and become a regular Joe, which maybe. But no, not anytime soon. That's the second thing I will never do is eat animal corpses.
Okay, corpses. Fantastic. Let's stop it right here. I'm gonna tune out in 5 minutes, guys, anyways. It has been long enough today. So I'm gonna tune out. That being said, okay, milk is bad for you because it's spiritually bad for you. Not even bodily, maybe it's good for you. No, it's not good for you, but spiritually. What are you talking about? So he doesn't provide any evidence, any claim whatsoever. It's all spiritual mumbo jumbo. And this is why all of the other religions ultimately are so unattractive. Of course, the Buddhist and Hindu religions especially, because they're the most vague. Then you come to Christianity, which is somewhat monotheistic, but still has this vagueness about the triunity, alleged triunity of God. It's only Islam that clarifies everything. What is halal, what is haram, why, there's a reason behind it, etc., you name it. Those guys tell you it's bad spiritually. Okay, how? Even though in Hinduism, you will find that milk is not bad spiritually. Especially not the raw milk from ahimsa cows, as I said already. But he's on some specific path, of course. He's on the specific path of Sadhguru, who works for the World Economic Forum, who's pushing the vegan agenda for Bill Gates. Yeah, of course. If you follow that type of religion, I'm sure you're going to be supremely healthy. Okay, anyways, guys, I'm tuning out. Thank you very much for tuning in. It was a quick stream today, more or less. I mean, it was about 2 hours, but nevertheless, I want to see if it works on Twitch as well. We will see if I continue with this, inshallah. As always, if you enjoyed the stream, guys, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the links in the description box to further support. And moreover, if you can, 1 second, share the streams as well so they are seen by more people, inshallah. And that is pretty much it. 1 second, I'm just adjusting something here. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. We're going to see each other, inshallah, soon again. As always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي وإلى مواعيد جود مولاك هرعي يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي وإلى مواعيد جود مولاك هرعي وإذا تأخر مطلب فلربما في ذلك التأخير كل المطمع. فاستانسي بالمنع وارعي حقه، إن الرضا وصف المنيب الألمع. وإذا بدا من ناطق الوجدان ما يدعوك للياس الذميم الأشنع، فاستيقظي من نومة الغفلات وليكن الرجاء لك مرتعا فيه ارتعي. إن العطاء إمداده متنوع، إن العطاء إمداده متنوع. يا حسنه ذاك العطاء المتنوع. وردوا على نهر الحياة وكلهم شربوا، وكم في الركب من متضلع. حاشا الكريم يردهم عطشا وقاد وردوا. وأصل الجود من ذا المنبع، أصل الجود من ذا المنبع. يا رب لي ظن جميل وافر، قدمته وامشي به يسعى معي. يا رب يا رب لي ظن جميل وافر، قدمته أمشي به يسعى معي. كل الذي يرجون فضلك، كل الذي يرجون فضلك أمطروا. حاشاك أن يبقى هشيما مربعي. كل الذي يرجون فضلك أمطروا. حاشاك أن يبقى هشيما مربعي.